Welcome back to A Book a Day podcast. And I've got another book with me today. It's called So That You Know, written by Mani Rao. It's a beautiful book, and I'll tell you why. It's a collection of poetry, over 100 poems, and in each one of these poems, you'll find beauty and depth, in fact. But beauty and depth in simplest of things. And I really loved how the poet she has captured those simplest of moments and created an art, created a world for us in exact those moments. And it feels like time really stops there when you read her poems. So I'm going to read a few poems and I'll talk about them. And I'm very sure that you'll have a good time. You'll enjoy reading them or listening to them in this case. So let me narrate these two short poems, and they go together. One is called This Marriage, the other one, That Marriage. Let's first recite This Marriage, where you'll see the use of metaphors. So here we go. This marriage. It's not too cold, I know, but I had nowhere else to keep this overcoat. All my suitcases were full, and my closet overcrowded. So I just let it sit upon my shoulders. So that's the metaphor, that's the image we find. That's unnecessary overcoat. It's not too cold, she says, but she had nowhere else to keep the overcoat. That's the comparison with relationship or marriage. And it feels like this quiet sense of resignation, as if accepting that it's all right, it's not perfect, but I just let it sit upon my shoulders, accepting, rather enduring, I would say. It doesn't sound like accepting. There's no resistance, there's no acceptance, sounds like endurance. So that's one way or one kind of situation that has been described. Then there's the other one, that marriage. Here it goes, that marriage. A haunted house, afraid to die. Echoes fold. Should the poem end there? The happy prince returns on the radio. Swallow, little swallow, will you not stay with me one night longer? So, those of you who probably don't know about the reference here, The Happy Prince is a short story by Oscar Wilde in which a statue and a swallow they develop this sacrificial kind of love, and the swallow keeps staying one night longer, another night longer until it dies. So it's a story of sacrifice and sacrifice in love. So that's what it refers to, and it feels like right from the start, this poem it talks about this haunting echo. It feels like loss. But the last lines, the happy prince and swallow, this one night longer reference, feels like a plea for lingering love, or rather, confrontation with this lingering pain. So these are two different kinds of marriages, relationships, or situations they have been described. This marriage, where you feel this sense of burden, sense of strain, and you're carrying out of necessity, out of habit. This is going on. In that marriage, it feels like as if the afterlife of a relationship. So you sense this kind of memory, longing, even this story kind of mythology reference has been given. So the first one is kind of numb endurance, and the second one is more of ghost of what remains in terms of memory, in terms of loss, pain. So I think they really go well together, and how beautifully they have been described. Another poem that I really loved, it's called a poem for a librarian. It seems like it's written from the point of view of a man, but it talks so much about a woman, and it'll teach you a lot of things in depth without specifically going into the details. But that's the beauty of poetry, just takes you there without even talking about it. And I thought this poem really moves you, and the way you look at women. So let me narrate this poem for you. It's called Poem for a Librarian. Poem for a librarian. Big library in our small town. So many floors and wings. We had 3 elevators and 5 stairwells. Books were stacked by subject. Where to put a book was my call. Art or architecture, classics or history, theology or religious studies, ask me. One ordinary day, a new book landed on my table, called Female. The cover said non-fiction. I put it under gynecology. I could not sleep that night, and the next day I moved it to anthropology. An hour later, decided it was genomics. This went on again, again, and again. Sociology, psychology, earth sciences, then it happened. Inspiration is always sudden, and just as I was brushing my teeth, I nearly said it aloud. Performing arts. Over breakfast, I told my wife what I was thinking. She hated it. Glinting, she said that I meant real estate. I know you want to know how this ended. Well, I put it under politics and left it there. How powerful, isn't it? How it goes from non-fiction to then gynecology, the scientific literature, or anthropology, the sciences, whether sociology or psychology, and eventually his perspective is more about performing arts, and then his wife doesn't like it. The wife, she says that she thought he meant real estate. That's another interesting way of how she's looking at his perspective. And then eventually it goes under politics, like most things, unfortunately. But it really makes you think. Really makes you think how you perceive the idea of female. I also enjoyed the poems where there were a number of references, very direct references to the Greek and Roman myths, but I think it wouldn't be fair to narrate them here or discuss them here because the explanations in that case would need to be really long. Because if you are not familiar with those Greek heroes, say, then it wouldn't be easy for me to describe the context in which they have been mentioned. But yes, if you are familiar with those references, I'm sure you're going to enjoy those poems. Another poem that I liked, and it's pretty much in the beginning, probably second or third poem, it's called My Corner. Let me read it. My corner. Now that I live on a dead end street, the good deeds of my past life return as a cat. She patrols the unmarked fence and invisible gate between the T junction and my territory. When intruders turn my way, this bullet darts right to left ominously. A misanthrope cat, maybe a tautology. Maybe the street went someplace once and never returned. Maybe shook hands with other streets and changed its course. Be what may, run, feet, run. So, although in this case, you see this street has been described, but it's more like personal geography where inner emotional boundaries and their mapping onto the outer spaces, the outer world, that has been described. It's really beautiful when you understand the depth of it. Another one of my favorite poems is called So Yes But No. It's really beautiful and kind of a metaphoric poem, and which is not really something that you find in most other poems in this collection. And you'll find this idea of desire, but there's also distance. So, kind of two lovers orbiting one another, not really meeting. So let me read it for you. So yes, but no. Like two rivers laden with lands and legends, sharp lights in leaf boats edging towards futures of highlights on waves, are we not too substantial to meet except in the ocean? Me in my orbit, you in yours, always inching closer while moving away. Like two celestial objects, may we revolve around each other. In any room, there's only room for a single poet. Take turns. And like so many of her poems, you find that really powerful sentence or message in the end. And in this case, this idea that in any room, there's only one room for a single poet. It's somewhat funny, also really brilliant way of putting it. This idea of this kind of solitary nature or ego or competition, but mostly I would say solitary nature of art. And in the end, this one is going to be the final poem that I recite here. It's again a brilliant, really powerful poem. Once again, it talks about a woman's experience, but here it combines this personal experience with the ancestral one. That's what makes it really beautiful. Let me narrate it for you. My old woman. When death fell asleep between my legs, one arm slung over my knee, I pulled her up to my leaking breasts and heard her grind her teeth. Does not inhabit herself. Stun guns of solar hair an eye flash hide her rage. Born in a mirror in water, precariously unheld, will never die. Sometimes Runiface spreads, wind wrinkling a lake, dolphins flipping at eyes and mouth. Sometimes a crucifix knows the bent of spine, splayed veins from eyebolts. And I think it's really powerful, really beautiful how this haunting physical memory has been captured here. Let me read the last few lines again. Sometimes Runiface spreads, wind wrinkling a lake, dolphins flipping at eyes and mouth. Sometimes a crucifix knows the bent of spine, splayed veins from eyeballs. What a wonderful little tribute to my old woman. So, these are some of the poems from the collection, but there are so many more. And in most of them, you'll find this voice of the poet. It's some kind of feminine voice, and it captures this modern world, our emotions, our lifestyles, our memories, pleasures, and pains. All of them you'll find have been captured and probably immortalized in this form of art. So that's it for today. I hope you'll get a chance to read the book and you'll surely have a good time. I'm definitely going to keep this collection with me for a long time, and I'll keep going back to it. It's not something that I would like to read it in one go. I don't think anyone would do that. It's something that you would want to keep returning to, and you'll go back to specific poems, you'll read them, and you'll come back to life. And that's what art does, doesn't it? So, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. And I'll catch you the next time with another wonderful book. Thank you.